Don't be a scaredy cat, part 2. We succeed in direct correlation to how much we trust. Summary: the more we trust, the more we are willing to be vulnerable. The more vulnerable we are, the more we take action on the things we desire. What is a scaredy cat? It's a cat that lacks trust. For example, have you ever picked up a feral kitten? These abandoned cats can shred you to pieces as they escape your cuddling arms. What makes them so brutal? They don't trust you. These cats choose to go it alone. They would rather live out in the cold than allow themselves to be vulnerable. How about you? Have you become a scaredy cat trying to go it alone? It doesn't work, does it? What happened? Maybe you once trusted enough to give your love to another, only to find yourself hurt and alone. So now, trust can feel like an impossibility. What's worse, when you do allow yourself to show interest again, it may seem that all you find are scary, suspicious characters that appear only to be interested in their selfish advantages. Sometimes, however, we don't know why we lack trust. Maybe we've never suffered any abandonment or betrayal that we can remember, and yet we still are scaredy cats. A lack of trust doesn't always come from past events that have apparent mistreatment, but a form of trauma is most likely always involved. The trauma I speak of isn't always physical trauma. There are many emotional traumas, some subtle, some horrific, that can turn us into helpless scaredy cats. In an upcoming post, article number 4, you will learn practical steps you can take to minimize the effects of trauma in your life. You do this by changing your mental focus. Why? Because trauma causes you to fixate at an unconscious level on a negative outcome image. By learning how to change that focus, you will naturally impact your level of trust and transform your life. Now, let's talk about the shy cat. The second definition found at www.urbandictionary.com for scaredy cat is someone who shies away from facing their fears. Well, besides love, what kind of fears does a human scaredy cat tend to shy away from facing? We may fear to make friends or to become close and connected with others. Perhaps we shy away from any social vulnerability, being creative, stepping up to the plate as a leader, self-promotion, selling, or starting new ventures. In other words, we have a hard time putting ourselves out there. In fact, the lack of trust can derail us from any human endeavor. What causes broken hearts, broken bank accounts, broken spirits? It's always, always, always going to come down to broken trust. Broken trust turns us into scaredy cats who fail consistently at what we determine to be important. What exacerbates the problem is, though sometimes some of us are painfully aware that we don't trust certain people, most often we don't realize we have trust issues on many secret levels. When you learn the skill of changing your mind's eye's internal focus, you flush out the trust issues and resolve them. Why is that so important? What lack of trust does? Having no trust can be compared to being stuffed into a tight little box where you can't break free. It's a hard place to be when we feel like we're losing in life. It's called feeling like a loser. Have you ever felt like a loser? When that happens, goals become hopeless. Even when you force yourself to go after something, it soon seems like a wall suddenly appears in between where you are now and where you want to be. This invisible barrier happens because internal levels of trust are running on empty. It's a lack of confidence in others, and maybe even in ourselves. Trust, then, is the magical ingredient. www.dictionary.com's section on word origin mentions this about the root of our modern English word trust. It says, see, true. Apparently, the modern word trust comes from the same root word. When you lose trust, In essence, you no longer know what is true. You don't know what to believe. And that is what causes the problem. It's hard to seize the day when you don't think you can count on much. Instead, we behave like scaredy cats. We have conflicting statements running in our head. People are inherently good versus people are inherently bad. We rarely have any conscious awareness that these competing beliefs are at work deep in the recesses of our neurology. Yet, these contradicting beliefs cause huge differences in the outcomes we get in life. They significantly impact our quality of life, either for the positive or the negative. Now, here's why. If we trust others at a fundamental level, we are willing to be vulnerable. And it's only then that we take action and stick to it, even when things get difficult. If we lack trust, we dare not take any chances because we see things with our mind's eye that can cause us harm. It's a pretty listless, perhaps even an anxious life when we are focused on worst case scenarios. Consequently, we may tend to mistakenly shred those we can trust, not be able to distinguish who is trustworthy, and we may want to hide under the covers as much as possible. Yes, being a scaredy cat is just not the way to go. Now, how do we reverse the fear? Stay tuned for the third post in this series entitled, Fortunately or Unfortunately, You Get What You Focus On. Next, you learn the mechanics of turning around your trust levels by altering your internal focus. We'll see you next time.